Hello one and all. Welcome to today's session on public relations and corporate communications. In this session, we will learn about what public relations is, what is the significance or relevance of public relations, what are the various publics of an organization whose relations we have to mend or maintain or build. And then what is advertising as compared to public relations? How do the two compare with each other? Also, we will talk about the objectives of public relations and the functions of public relations. Then we will also briefly touch upon corporate communications and how does it overlap with public relations. We are also going to talk in this session about advantages of public relations and corporate communication for any organization. We will also talk about the segments of corporate communication and the key components or key areas of corporate communication. So let us begin this session. What is public relations? Public relations is basically a management function. This means that it is a function of the management. Like management has various kinds of functions, public relations is one of them. And what does this public relation do? It creates, it develops and carries out policies and programs to influence public opinion or public reaction about an idea or a product or an organization, or these days even personalities. Because famous personalities, be it in Bollywood or in politics, hire public relations agencies to work for them. So the basic idea of public relations is to create and develop programs which are going to influence the image of an organization in such a manner that it will create a positive impact on its audiences, which are the publics. Also, it influences public opinion. When we say it influences public opinion, we try to judge how positively any opinion of the public at large gets influenced such that it can be converted into tangible or intangible profits for any organization. It is also called the art of building relationships. This is a very simple and beautiful definition of public relations, because public relations largely is a long-term plan. It is not like advertising, it is not short-term, it doesn't just make a single announcement and then, relinquish itself from the other responsibilities. What it does basically is, it builds relationships. And we all understand as human beings, as social beings, that building of relationships and maintaining those relationships is a very difficult affair in human life. And time and again, people get tested on it. So also, organizations get tested about it. How do you build a relationship with a certain segment of the audience? How do you sustain it or maintain it? And how do you strengthen it? In a way that tomorrow when it comes to brand loyalty, this segment of the audience chooses you, the brand, for its choice. It is also called, public relations is also called doing good and getting credit for it. So public relations is all about doing good, because you need to strengthen and build and maintain and sustain your relationships with various publics. So you have to do good so that you get credit for it. And not just doing good, you also have to showcase it in such a way that you're able to get the credit for the good deeds that you've done. Now, what are these various ways is what we will explore in this session today. PR, basically, public relations, is a part of the society, it is a part of the politics, it is a part of the economics. Wherever sociological relations, wherever human relations are involved, we do talk of public relations. There are people in life who we would like to keep in good humor. There are people in life who we would like to maintain a certain give and take relationship with. So public relations basically teaches you the methods, the art, the innovations of building these relationships, sustaining them, strengthening them, and making use of them in future. Let us look at the significance of public relations. It maintains a mutually beneficial relationship between a firm and its publics. Now, it is important that the benefit be mutually shared. So ideally, in a situation, if an organization benefits from the purchase decisions made by the customers or the target audience or the target segment, On the other hand, the customer should also find it a fruitful experience to make a purchase of a certain brand, should find value of money, should find it better than the competition, should find it more satisfying in terms of using that product or service as an experience. Then another way of signifying or telling the relevance of public relations is that it builds sustainable relationships between an organization and its publics. I just talked about building relationships. So building relationships and forgetting about it, not investing into it or not reaping the benefits of it is of no use. Ideally, for a profit-making organization, for a business organization, it is rather a waste. So it is important that sustainable relationships be developed between an organization, the goals, the values, the mission that it stands for, and the publics at large. Again, it should be based on truth, knowledge, and information. It is important to insist on truth because unlike other forms of marketing, say for example advertising, which is not necessarily 100% true, if public relations is not 100% true, you cannot look at building a sustainable relationship. So for all that it takes, it must be built on truth, it must be built on knowledge and the information about the organization, about the product, about how it can benefit the society, about the kind of use that the audiences can put it to. Then public relations also builds image in a big way. In fact, public relations is used for image building and image management only. So ideally, public relations is able to display either your actions or your ideas or whatever good you've done as an organization or an individual or a product in front of the audiences who are concerned with it, who are direct or indirect stakeholders in the company, and then they are able to project a favorable, a positive picture of themselves in front of the target audience. Now let us look at what these publics of an organization are. When I say publics of an organization, it is basically first just to look at public relation in a different manner. It is a deliberate and planned and sustained effort to establish and maintain mutual understanding between an organization and its publics. So it has to be deliberate and planned because here we are not just here, I mean in any context that we talk about, whether it be an organization or a leader or a Bollywood star or me and you in general. If we want to build mutual relationships which are based on understanding and mutual benefit, it has to be deliberate and planned and efforts need to be made to sustain it. Now publics basically are communities of people who are associated either directly or indirectly with an organization. Say for example, an organization that is a manufacturing company. So who all are the publics? The publics can be the government whose policies it must follow and whose taxation system it must follow. It can be the people around. To them they have a certain kind of social responsibility. Then there is the media, there are the investors, there are the various wholesalers, distributors, all this chain of people who are associated directly or indirectly with any organization is called its publics. Now the publics can be of two kinds, they can be external and they can be internal. When I say internal publics, it is largely those people who are directly associated not only with an organization, they are associated with the production of the product or service or whatever, the idea that they are propagating or selling in the market. So the employees of an organization are the internal publics of that organization. When it comes to external publics, this list can be extended, it is not all inclusive. But it does list a few of the external publics. Now these can be the customers, the first and the very most. Then it is the media, the community, the action groups. We all have NGOs who would like to look into the policies that are being formulated, the environmental hazards that are involved or in the production or manufacturing of a product, and all other various aspects of it. So also human rights is one form of it. So NGOs are the action groups. Then there is the government, There are financial institutions. Financial institutions are the institutions that will fund you also, that will put certain taxations also, and according to whose rules and regulations the business environment will function. And then there is the general public. So all of these together form the external publics for an organization. Now let us just look at how advertising compares with public relations. My last sessions were based on advertising, and when we try and compare advertising, which is such a vociferous form of marketing, as compared to public relations, which is subtle, which has a long lasting impact, which takes a lot of time to show effects, how do the two compare? Advertising is paid while public relations is earned. When I say paid, whenever you approach a media in order to present any piece of communication which to you is a form of advertising, a persuasive communication meant for the audiences at large, you have to pay that media in order that this communication should be sent out to the public. So this is advertising. But public relations is into manufacturing of relations, strong relationships with target segment. So I say that it is earned. Then advertising builds exposure. It exposes the brand, it exposes a new product, exposes a new addition to the product, the additional features that come up. So it gives a lot of exposure of the media, of the audiences, of the public in general to a certain product or a service. As compared to this, public relations builds on trust. The relationship is lasting on trust itself. So as long as we know, like, there are examples of various kinds. There can be a certain brand of shoes that you must be, using for the last 10 or 20 years, or your parents must be using for a very long time. They are not so easy to change, because they more or less become a habit. Say for example, a newspaper. You become so accustomed to those ways of writing, those styles of writing of a newspaper, that if you are given another newspaper, you can feel slightly uncomfortable with it. Then it is also, advertising is also more expensive, because public relations has those innovative ways. I do not say that public relations does not need any budget. Of course, as a part of marketing, it does utilize some kind of budget for any kind of public relation activity or public relation campaigns that is carried out. Yet I would say that public relations is less expensive, because you can come up with innovative ways of doing it. You have social media, which is also available for advertising, so on and so forth. Then again, as far as advertising goes, the ads have a visual appeal. If you look at an ad in a newspaper, or you look at the TV commercials, as compared to that, public relations is largely making use of language. So in the form of news, a public relations piece might say that such and such company has opened a small hospital in a small village, which was far-flung village, where there was no health facility. So this piece of news actually acts like a public relation piece or of communication. Similarly, advertising is more of rooftop shouting. So you say, I am good, my product is good, this company, this organization is good, you should purchase it, you should spend your money on it. As compared to that, public relations believes in someone else, proposing that product or service. So that product or organization is good. Self-acclaims are not the ways of public relations. Then guaranteed placement in media is there. Since you're paying for it, it is a paid service. Advertising guarantees that there will be a placement in media. But as compared to this, public relations may only be able to persuade media to accommodate the news. Say for example, I just gave you an example of a hospital opening up in a far-flung village of India. So this is a news which is a positive story, but might get killed in case there is something more sensational that will serve the needs of the newspaper or the media that is being made use of better. So they might just decide to kill the story or publish it on some other occasion or some other time. So ideally, this is the difference between advertising and public relations. Let us proceed. Now we look at what are the objectives of public relations. The first and the foremost is to maintain a goodwill, maintaining cordial relations, good relations. Trust is all about making goodwill. So among both external as well as internal publics, because the employees need to be kept motivated. Only as long as they believe that they are working for an organization which really stands apart and which has something to be proud of, will they feel motivated to work there. So it is important to build that goodwill in terms of motivation for the internal public. Then of course, another main objective of public relations is to maintain a positive image. Image building is a primary function of public relations, which it can serve very well because of the techniques, because of the tools that it makes use of, and because of the approach that it takes. So it is a very successful means of building image. Public relations also promotes the product or service. So the basic idea why an organization will make use of any marketing initiative, be it advertising, be it public relations or any other form of marketing, is basically to push the product. So public relations also has the objective of promoting the product and service. Prevention and solution of the labor problem. Most of the time in manufacturing sectors, it is seen that the laborers, the people who are working, the proletariat as Marx called it, is the one who is paid less. The labor that they put in is much more, the skill that they put in is much more, but the kind of payments they receive is meager. So in that kind of a situation, there will always be a problem between the laborers and the managers or the owners of a company. So public relations does a mediating job in this as well. Another objective of public relation is overcoming misconceptions and prejudice. So like you have seen, there have been brands in India like Maggi or Cadbury's where we found that there were insects or cockroaches in it, or it was propagated that the whatever is contained in Maggi contains lead or other such things which are harmful to the health. So overcoming any kind of misconception or any kind of negative notion through its various activities is also the job of a public relations officer in an organization. So these are the objectives of public relations. There are more. Educating the public to the use of the product and service. If there is a new product in the market, you need to educate. One thing is you need to create a need for it. There can be a big possibility that since this product did not exist till date, means there wasn't so much of a need for it. So you first have to understand why and how you have to create need for your product. And then you have to educate the public on how your product or service can fulfill that need. So say for example, a number of times pesticides have been reported in vegetables and fruits. So there have been brands that have come up with certain features of their products whereby they can take out the chemicals that are there in the vegetables and fruits. So you have to first create a need. This is something which could have been done even without the use of a purifier, this thing. But here you are creating a need amongst the target segment that this will do it to its best possible capacity and it will completely free your fruits and vegetables of any kind of chemicals or pesticides or some such thing. So you have to create a need and then educate the public as to how the product can suffice that need. Then another objective is to investigate the attitude of various groups towards the company policies. There can be times when profit-making organizations are not seen in a justifiable manner. As in, there can be always human rights organizations who would say that they are either paying less or they are creating a hazard to the environment, or they are, the people around have to pay a lot of social cost because of the existence of the factory or the manufacturing unit in a certain area. So ideally, the public relations department must investigate the attitude of various groups towards the company policies, towards the company products and the company as an entity as such, and then work on what best it can do to improvise it. Another thing is formulation and guidance of the policies. When I say formulation and guidance, it is about what kind of policies should be formed such that without hampering the environment, without incurring a lot of social cost to the people nearby, you should be able to formulate a policy which will also do you good and also be of some social benefit. So formulation and guidance of policies inside the company is also one objective, one function of public relations department. Now we look at functions. We were so far talking of objectives, and objectives and functions you will find are quite overlapping in nature. Now let us look at the functions. The first thing is to use various PR tools to achieve organizational goals. Every organization has a certain identity, a certain personality. It is viewed in a certain manner by its public. So when you making use of public relations tools and techniques, how are you able to successfully achieve the organizational goals is an important thing to consider. So that's one function of public relations. Another is to interact with the government and non-government agencies for smooth running of the organization. An organization may have multiple problems. Problems related to wages, problems related to product quantity, product quality. So many different aspects can become a concern for any organization. So it is the work of public relations wing of any organization to interact with the government for policy matters, taxation matters, and for with the non-government agencies, NGOs, as they are commonly called, on the various other aspects of society for smooth running of the organization. Then another function is to maintain good media relations, because at the end of it, the kind of image that any organization or a star celebrity or a politician or anyone is able to project is only through the vehicle, which is the media. So it is very important to cultivate the media and maintain good relations with the media. This is another function of public relations. Then to inform the publics about various activities. Until you inform the various target audience, the public memory, as they say, is short-lived. So until you keep informing them, until you keep doing new activities, something that has something to give away to the society as well, and you highlight your activities, people will totally forget about the brand. So it is important to inform the publics about the various activities that your organization is scheduling and carrying out. Also, reputation building and management is an important part, which is like, image building. So you build a certain kind of reputation. This organization is aggressive, but it holds on to its corporate social responsibility. That's one kind of a reputation. Another kind could be that this organization helps the little companies which are springing up in the market, but it is highly profit oriented. This is another kind of reputation. So what kind of reputation would you like to hold for your organization, and how you would want to manage and sustain it, and whether you would want to change it over a period of years, like a traditional company would want to be seen in the modern light, because the younger generation is now taking purchase decisions. So probably the values that are more closer to them is something that a company would like to reflect. So that requires building of reputation and management of reputation as well. And a very important function of public relations is crisis management. Crisis is something which is an unforeseen situation that suddenly comes in front of you, and you have to make the right decisions at that time. Most of the times, most people would want to hide the facts. They would want to hide the truth. But that completely is the worst thing. Anything that can go wrong is this. So in times of crisis, how do you plan your communication, and how do you communicate? To whom do you communicate? How do you maintain transparency? Because you have to, all right, a crisis has taken place in an organization, you have to shoulder the responsibility, you have to take the responsibility, after which, how are you doing the damage control? Or how are you compensating to the people, to the society for the losses that have been incurred? That is an important thing. So crisis management is another very important function of public relations. Now we start to look at what corporate communications is. So far I have given you a fair idea of what public relations is, what its objectives and functions are, why is it important, why do we need it in organizations, and now we come to corporate communications. To begin with, let me state frankly that corporate communication is a new terminology for public relations, and maximum of its functions are overlapping in nature. So you may also call public relations as corporate communication. But since this has emerged a little later than public relations and is closer to the management side of things, so I am dealing with it in a separate way today. Corporate communication encompasses all communications of an organization, both externally as well as internally. When we look at the aims of corporate communication, it is to present a uniform communicative experience. We said in terms of public relations, it was to maintain a good image, a favorable image, and to manage crisis and all those things. Here we say that it is important to present a uniform communicative experience. What do I mean by that? Say for example, there are various verticals that an organization may have. So this organization could be producing refrigerators and also washing machines and also other consumer durables, and now they have maybe moved into textiles. So how do you present a uniformity in it so that this company, it just don't, it is not only to give an idea of the magnanimity of the organization, but also you put some weight behind a new product that is being launched or a new vertical that you're moving in. Because your reputation from your old business will carry forward here. So this is the job of corporate communication, that it presents a uniform communicative experience, one umbrella brand, which has so many verticals under it. Then another aim is to create a favorable point of view, which is what public relations does. The third thing is improving awareness. Things keep changing in an organization. It could be related to the production, it could be related to the policies, it could be related to the budgets that you've set for your marketing, advertising and other expenditures. It could be pertaining to your corporate social responsibility. It can also pertain to your mergers and acquisitions into new companies, new concerns, taking over smaller concerns. So it can be all sorts of information. So it is important that corporate communication keeps improving upon the awareness of various stakeholders. If I am a financer, I would like to see how well this company has grown over a period of years, where all it has invested, what kind of mergers has it been into, and what kind of dividends has it reaped out of this. So ideally, this is a chart that I would like in front of me in order to decide whether or not I am going to fund this organization or not. So improving upon constant improvement in awareness about a concern about a brand is also the function of corporate communication. Then it has to be goal-oriented action. Like any other marketing communication, corporate communication also sets certain goals for itself, for its activities, and then it decides in how long a period or how short a period will we reach this goal. What are the various means and materials that we will use for it? What is the methodology we will make use of? So on and so forth. Then there has to be some profit-oriented action. Why have we set goals? Because we are a business entity. So at the end of it all, there has to be some profit to show to the stakeholders, to the government and everyone. So profit-oriented action is also a part of the functions of corporate communication. Now let us look at the advantages of public relations and corporate communications. The first thing is that it strengthens corporate identity. Corporate identity are all those features in a brand. It could be your logo, it could be your mascot, it could be anything through which your unique identity is represented. So this kind of communication, professional, targeted, planned communication, helps you in strengthening your identity as a corporate. It increases the recognition value. So when people know more about this company, they will be able to recognize this company. It improves upon professionalism in any concern, business concern. There is greater efficient control of external effects. You are able to keep a better control. Why? Because you are continually and consciously dealing with various segments of the audiences, be they NGOs, be they media, be they other external factors. So you are in a position to have certain kind of control, exercise certain kind of control over it, as compared to a situation where there is no control and people might affect you negatively. Then it helps in improving work environment, because it also works a lot on internal communication, employment motivation and whatever else is required so that the employees may work in a manner that they reap greater dividends, they bring in more profits. So it also helps in improving work environment. Now let us look at the segments of corporate communication. When we talk about the segments of corporate communication, one is management communication, which includes the components like leading, planning, organizing, evaluating, all the management functions that are set for any activity or campaign or series of activities is managing communication. So this is one segment of one area of corporate communication. The another segment is marketing communication. So when I will talk to you about integrated marketing communication, I will talk in greater detail about what marketing communications is all about. But this is basically, to tell you in short, it is basically aimed at marketing a brand or a company or product by means of various tools. Advertising can be one, organizing events can be another, public relations and corporate communications could be one. So hence we count it as a segment of corporate communication. And then institutional communication, which is basically to strengthen the relation between the institution and the employees. So institutional communication, internal communication is also an important segment of corporate communication. Now let us look at the components or key areas of corporate communication. One is corporate identity. Like I just said, there are certain unique attributes or features that describe a company. These are the corporate identities. Corporate branding. This is the uniting a group of products, the example of which I just gave you. A number of consumer durable products are being produced by one company. When you bring them under one name or identity, it is called corporate branding. Another is corporate reputation. It is molding the perception of stakeholders based on how you have performed so well, and what is the what is the perception of the stakeholder in terms of your ability to meet the expectations in the market. All these are components or key areas of corporate communication. And of course, regular based communication with publics like investors, with publics like media, internal communication, which is your employees, as well as communicating with the customers. These are another important segment of corporate communication. And like I just suggested, that crisis communication is another segment which has to be greatly led by corporate communication, because in terms of crisis there is no one else who is, no other department which will be well armed to deal with a situation of that sort. So crisis communication is another segment of corporate communication. That's all in this session today. Think creative, think PR. Join us again in 5 minutes. Thank you.